Well, howdy there, backpackers. Fireball coming at you with another solo EP of GEARHAULICS, where I like to just break down everything that I can in regards to just meticulously looking at the gear that we love to use in the backcountry. Quick reminder for you guys here on this one. This is a dedicated podcast on my YouTube channel here on YouTube. It's not supported in any other podcast platforms. However, if you have the premium subscription, you can turn your screen off. It's definitely worth listening to just in the background. You don't necessarily have to watch all of these on screen. If you do, have mercy on your soul for looking at this ugly mug for as long a period of time as you can stand. But you might be able to get some things because I usually do a screen share, which I'm going to do today as well. But it works perfectly well as a podcast, just playing in the background for the audio for you guys. All right. So today's cast is going to be all about revisiting and looking at some of Zpacks' new products here, and also to add the question that I'm going to answer at the end of the cast here, which is going to be to look at the question of, is it really worth it for a company, and not just Zpacks specifically here, but other companies do this as well, but is it worth it for a company to kind of put out a new product every month or two and kind of scattershot it and just offer a lot of different offerings, or is it more of a detriment to the overall company vision to do something like that? I'm just one guy, I just have my own personal opinion on this. I'm no expert, but I do tend to read the tea leaves a little bit more, especially when it comes to gear. So I do have a decent input into that area. But let's just pull up here and do a screen share and dive into some of Zpacks' new products here. So let me share my screen and let's just do an overview here. All right, so we're at Zpacks' home page here. Is it Zpacks' or Zpacks apostrophe? I don't know how to pluralize their stuff here. Just kind of show you since the last time I kind of ripped into them a little bit. I've actually, I think over time, been slowly becoming more of a Zpacks fan here. I never recommend getting anything at full price unless you want to get some of their smaller accessories. I always recommend going for not their garage sales, but any other like used gear and things of that nature, and you can find some pretty stellar discounts on their gear. Just don't really pick it up from their site. But their site is where I'm headed today to look at. I'm going to look at all the different categories up top here by my cursor and just kind of dive into, the big three here, their shelters, packs, and sleeping bags. Not a lot with their packs there. They only have maybe one pack since I kind of last talked about their packs. And then not a lot in clothing, maybe one other piece that's as far as like new pieces goes. I'm going to talk about one other thing with accessories, because I don't think there's a ton there either, and then briefly kind of shame their bargain bin. So let's go into their shelters first here. And another preface here before I start diving into these shelters is I'm basically saying like new gear, but a lot of their stuff is mostly just like derivatives of other pieces that they've already made. Like a lot of their quote unquote, I'm going to put up the air quotes a lot into this podcast. Their quote unquote new gear is really just the same piece of gear, just kind of done differently. So technically it is new because they've, used different materials, or they've gone with a slightly different design feature, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's brand new for their shop. However, there are, I think, at least one or two pieces here that I'm going to talk about that are brand new here. So wanted to dive into it. So let's look at their tents here real quick. The only ones worth note here, or I should say that kind of stand out as different since the last time I talked about them. We've got the offset version here. This has kind of been on my wish list here as far as the offset solo goes. And then they also have a duo. This is a big push from them, I would say, earlier in this calendar year of 2024 here to try and compete more with the X-Mids and a couple of the other tents and features that us backpackers really enjoyed. So that's one good thing that I could say, a good mark on Zpacks here, or kudos, is that they listened to the community and what they want and kind of went for it. So some of the big changes there are getting away from that weird rainbow style door for the mesh inner that kind of fell onto the floor, and then putting in a zip for the doors instead of just going with that weird crossover flap that they went with. And then some other smaller things like magnetic toggles, magnetic tiebacks, bigger bump outs for the feet here that you can see with the offset, making it an offset rather than having the pole just in the center design. And then I would say also for the mesh door, going with that, whatever you call it, J style, L style, D style, I forget the exact or the proper name for it, but going with more of a traditional door than that rainbow style door. So let's just click into the offset. I'm not going to get into a deep dive like I have in the past with like specific specs and price points and things of that nature. Just kind of briefly glaze over some of the new or newer quotes again offerings for these guys, and just kind of do a brief overview. So the offset here, this is sort of my perfect 3-season-ish tent here. Definitely like a more lightweight tent. It's a little bit higher than some of their lightest offerings. The Plex Solo Light, I think, is still one of their lightest ones. But you got an offset design, dual pole, for a 1P, 2 vestibules. My buddy Matt, who's been on the podcast, has mentioned that the biggest knock that he has is the vestibule space is a little bit small for this tent, but it's offset, so your head's not, you're not really feeling crowded. There's plenty of interior space. They, again, went with the magnetic toggles, the upgraded mesh door, the D door. Plenty of room here at the feet, so that's why I like to bring all of my stuff into the tent anyway, so I'm not it's not a huge detriment to me not to have a huge vestibule. And I really just enjoy the dual pole design. So that one to me is a huge win. It's on my wish list. And this is forecasting that I'm probably going to pick it up at some point. I've been trying to find a deal on it, but it's still pretty new. So people are still kind of buying them and not really returning them or selling them quite yet. The other one here, I had mentioned already, the Plex Solo Light. They have the Plex Solo Classic. So the original Plex Solo, which I ended up picking up at a pretty good discount, ended up switching over to the Classic, sort of like Pepsi and Coke Classic, in order to switch over to this Plex Solo Light here. Basically the exact same tent. You still have the rainbow style door and the flaps and everything. They were just trying to get the weight down as much as possible, so they went with a thinner DCF fabric on this one for I think both the outer and the bathtub floor to drop it by a couple of ounces. So this one is 11.8 ounces. I think the price point's the same too, $600. I think the difference there is when you jump up into I think the 2P. No. Yeah, right here is a $30 difference here for the duplex light tent versus the duplex classic. But for the solo tents, they made them the same weight, and you're saving somewhere around 3 ounces, just a little bit under there, to get something that will probably wear out more easily over time. But if you wanted to shave the most amount of ounces as possible, you can go with something like that. Anything else here? There's one more in particular. With the offset solo, they went with the duo and the trio. So basically the duplex and triplex before. They just went with that same design because they wanted to, again, do the fan service with the updated door and the zippers and the magnetic tie back. So I think what you'll see eventually is people just kind of phasing out their classic version. And you might be able to snag some decent deals on that within the coming years in favor for their new, zipper type of design. The biggest thing, and this is one of their most recent launches here, is going to be their Pivot Solo tent. Not sure if they plan on doing this for like a 2P, 3P. I think it works the design mostly for a 1-piece style tent. $50, even more so than the Plex Solo, coming in at a similar weight as the Plex Solo Classic here at 13.5 ounces. But, and I'm not sure if this was a direct stab at, Durston Gear and the X-Mid. It isn't a weird shape. It is more of a bump out style, though. Basically what they tried to do was offer more interior space for their Plex Solo design, and that's why they still go with the Solo name, but just a different first name here of Pivot Solo. So as we're looking through the pictures here, let me see if I can make them a little bit bigger here for you guys. Basically looks exactly like the Plex Solo, just with this big bump out here. This is for a foot tie out or pull out. to give your feet a little bit more space. And then it does look like they ended up making a little bit more offset. So it's the pole. They're still doing the one pole design. It's actually technically two poles because you need another pole for the foot pull out. However, they went with more of an offset and still mostly one pole design here for the overall structure. I guess the only other benefit that I can see with this one versus the Plex Solo, there's actually two. One is that obviously you have the foot pull out. So if that's a problem for you, it's never really been an issue for me where I'm like, oh, I need to get a tent that has a foot pull out or a higher foot pull out. But I guess if you're a little bit taller of a backpacker, that might help. The other thing too, I'm trying to get to the picture. They still have the bump outs. Here it is. Greater ventilation here, I think, is the added benefits. You see this extra flap here at the back if you're viewing this one here, but if not, I'll try to explain in an auditory fashion here. With that additional trekking pole or stick or whatever that you want to put in there to bump it out, again, I would probably recommend a trekking pole because the stick might pop through this material. But what that gives you is they gave a little bit extra material coming off of that pull out. And what that is going to end up doing is providing a little bit more ventilation underneath for that cross breeze. So this would probably be a little bit better for ventilation. The other thing too here, I'm going to do a quick comparison of the interior space of both of these. I think what they were trying to do as well with this one, again, not really a comparison with the X-Mid. I would say this feels a little bit more closely geared towards my buddy Huck and his favorite tent, the Lunar Solo. I think they tried to blow out the overall interior space of this just a little bit more. As you can see here, we got 42 inches on just the total interior livable space from a width perspective. And then we've got, I'm trying to see what the total length of the interior is, or what the total length of the interior is here. There's a lot of different, they say 84 inches, but I don't think that's the floor, the total floor space here. I'm not exactly sure on that one. I'm probably just missing it. Let's pop back out to the Plex Solo Lite for a comparison here and pull up the specs real quick. So I'd say, what was it, like 47 inches? And then this one, you know, from all the way across at the widest point here is 38. So you're gaining almost, I think, 10 extra inches there. And in particular with a single, still primarily a single pole design, that's going to feel huge. Offset as well. The Plex Solo here is just a, you know, dead center is where you put the pole here. So having the Pivot Solo be a little bit more offset, having that extra bump out and giving you extra ventilation. There are some additional features here that seem like it is somewhat of a worthy look if you're like kind of comparing the two and like, oh, like which one do I get kind of thing. It obviously isn't the lightest because the Plex Solo is still the lightest, but I can attest to having the Plex Solo Classic that it feels rather tight in there. So my only concern with the Pivot is that do you need to have that extra bump out there in order to properly pitch it, or can you go without it? It seems like with the extra material, you have to go with the extra pole there, which in my mind, I would just go with the offset Solo at that point if you have to carry two poles anyway. Rather than, you know, needing an extra pole only for the foot bump out there, which I don't think is 100% necessary. All right, let's switch over to the backpacks real quick. Not a lot to talk about with on this particular category. This has stayed relatively the same since they recently overhauled their packs and went away from DCF and exclusively went with just Ultra. They overhauled that pretty hard too. Like the DCF was out pretty quickly for this Ultra material. So almost all of it, I don't even think you can get bargain bin DCF packs anymore. So you'd have to hunt around like eBay sales for that. The one that I'm going to talk about here is probably going to be, I think they've always had the Sub Nero for a long time. I have the Nero, which is the 38. And then they also, I think they recently went with this Super Nero, which doesn't really make sense to me because I think it's basically just the Arc Haul, like a smaller Arc Haul version, a 50 liter just without the hip belt pocket. So like why you would need a 50 liter without a hip belt pocket, I'm not really sure. But anyway, let's dive into that one because that's one of the newer ones here. And in particular here, another thing that they introduced, let me see if I can show it on screen. I'm not sure if they have it. to show. Yeah, here it is. They eventually and finally, I should say, went with a running style vest. I was super bummed to find out. Let me scroll down here to show you that if you're looking, actually, I got to go back to the, sorry, I got to jump back out to just the vest piece here. And what we're seeing here is backpack compatibility. So if you're just listening to the podcast, not actually seeing this on screen, um, basically, if you want to get the running style vest for any of the Z-Pack stuff, you have to buy a newer pack. So they did that on purpose to make you essentially buy a new pack. So anything that is prior to, it seems everything here is like November. Some of them are November, some of them are September, as far as the overall compatibility of the pack. The only one that has compatibility for all versions seems to be their Super Nero, which they basically just launched in 2024 as well. So nothing prior to the year of 2024 will work with a running style vest. I thought when they launched this, I was like, great, I'll be able to just like grab the vest and swap it out with my old straps. No, you are not able to do that. So I'm kind of pissed at Z-Packs for not going backwards on their compatibility on that and kind of forcing you to buy something new in order to take advantage of those running style vests. So that's one of the main reasons why I haven't picked it up yet, is just for that very reason alone. The other reason is because they put their own pockets on it, and I don't really like that. I like to put my own pockets on the shoulder straps. Nothing really different with the Super Nero other than what I had already mentioned. I think is just that it's just, it's got the compatibility with the straps. I think when you're buying it new, you can either say, I want the classic straps or to go with the running style vest. If you are packing 50 liters worth of stuff into this pack, I would definitely recommend going with the running style vest. It's just something that I really wanted to try out, and I'm really sad that they didn't make it backwards compatible. So points taken away for them on that one. That's all I really have to say about the packs. Again, as a quick recap, they swapped out all the materials, DCF to Ultra. This Super Nero seems to be the only one that is pretty new or newer-ish. Everything else pretty much stayed the same, and then they went with the running style vest there. So in my mind, it's not really innovation. It's just them, again, kind of catching up and just trying to do some fan service there and finally kind of coming around to that. Six Moons was kind of a proponent of that from very early on. And I think other companies are testing the water still, but have not fully dived in. And this is Z-Pack's first option to try and do that. All right. Let's go over to sleeping bags and or quilts. As I take a quick drink here. Not a lot. Actually, there was one that I saw recently. They just bombed it out here. A couple of different designs here that might be new since the last time I talked about them. Not a ton of offerings, as you can see, are only 8 total, and one of them is a liner. They just recently, and I'm talking like maybe a couple days now, I just got an email on it. They're calling it the Summer Quilt, and they have a twin, and then they also should have, yeah. And then they're calling it a summer quilt / winter liner here. And basically what it is one of their lightest bags that and or quilts that you can get here. They're always trying to go lighter here, and I'm also going to ding them again for a couple of different reasons here, but let me pull up some pics for you to look at here. So what they're going with, I think, is a 30 and 40 degree. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I think it's a 40 and a 32 degree rating. And this is again not comfort rating. If you go down to, I forget if it's material, specs, sizing, care, it might be under specs, maybe. Forgot where I found it. Yeah, they're not ISO rated, which basically means it's not comfort rated. I found it somewhere. I can't figure it out right now. I don't want to spend too much time trying to dig for it. However, I was able to find it somewhere where they basically say that, like, it's not comfort rating. It's not a comfort rating, basically, is what they're saying. They're basically saying like it is more of an extreme rating. So you have to tack on anywhere from like 10 to 12 extra degrees to each one of these bags here. So 40 degree is really like a 50-ish degree, and a 32 degree is like a 40 to 45 degree comfort rating here. However, and the other thing too here is that they always list their shortest for like the really like the tiniest people that are out there. Oh, 8.5 ounces, 8.6 ounces. Yeah, well, that's for the 40 degree. So let's stick with the 40 degree. But any normal person, let's say up to like 5 6'8", like if you're a standard dude size, right? And not a shorty here. Let's go standard and medium. Boom, jumps up another ounce and a half. And it also jumps up in price here. So $339 for a summer bag is insane in my personal opinion here. They're still using down as well, which is kind of crazy. So I'm going to do a quick comparison here, and I'm going to say, my um, warmer quilt of choice that I always like to go with is my Enlightened Equipment Apex. I think it's a Revelation quilt, and it's also synthetic, so you don't have to worry about down and condensation and it clumping and trying to care for it more so than anything, clean it, stuff like that is kind of a hassle. So it's a little bit easier with the synthetic stuff, and that only weighs, I think, 12 ounces. It is, again, a 40 degree, but the comfort is closer to like 50. Actually, I think mine is a 50 degree, so a little bit warmer, or I should say a little bit colder, sleeps a little bit colder. But I got mine for like $200 on a garage sale. So, to spend this much for a warmer weather quilt just to me seems more than a bit insane. But, try to, again, I guess, hunt around for those deals if you're all in on Zpacks products. But I would say a quick pass on that one. Nothing else really there. Again, they're kind of trying to push and I'm not sure if this is really a trend either. I saw UGQ kind of do something similar where they have their Quillo that they're trying to like also, try to sell as sort of like a dual purpose. Like it can be a pillow, but it can also be like a rumple or like a blanket or something like that, or a light quilt. And I think this is sort of like their response to that of like, oh, let's just make something super light, but for warmer weather. And I don't really understand it. I'm not sure if it's a full zip or if it's a closed foot box. Looks like a closed foot box here too. So it's not even really that versatile. So I'd say skip that one. Let's go over to clothing here. I don't want to drain on too long. Right about the 20-minute mark right now. I don't think I've ever talked about the different offerings that they've had before with clothing. They got the Octa. They've got some merino wool stuff. The Virtus Rain stuff is kind of old. Recently, they've messed around with a warmer goose down jacket, but again, ultra expensive, almost $400 for those. And then a vest. I don't really know anybody who goes with a vest. But then the other stuff is still pretty much the same. They got a water sock here. They got their booties. They also have the hood or balaclava. So not a ton is different. The one thing that I want to call out here, and this is brand new, they probably just reconfigured some of the materials here, but this is pretty new to the marketplace. This is their version of an ultralight camp shoe. It's not good for water crossing. It's really just for like lounging around camp. There's not going to be a lot of support either, but it's really just to get your feet out of your boots or trail runners and put them into something else that's going to breathe a little bit more. Now, there is another sandal that I had picked up that I forget the name of it. If I can put it on screen, maybe I'll put it on screen. I totally forgot the name of it. It just slipped my mind. But this is sort of like their reaction to those sandals. I do like here, if you're looking on screen, they have a little bit more of a firm bottom to it, but that you can also, it's malleable, you can roll it up, but it looks like there's a little bit more protection underneath. But they're still going with the drawstring style around your heel. Your heel is mostly open, and then the front portion, which is the majority, I'd say like 2/3 of your foot, the front portion is protected. So with that other sandal, which I think they sell on Garage Grown Gear, and has been highlighted on a couple of different channels, it's all just open, right? It was just like a form of like corrugated cardboard. I think it is slightly lighter than this. The pair for this is at 1.8 ounces for a size medium, 2 ounces for a large, so not much extra for sizing up here. And then they also have an additional toggle option to kind of cinch it down. I really like this design. I may end up picking it up. It's $35, which for what it is, again, it's Zpacks, so it's a little bit more expensive than what you'd probably normally pay for something like this. But I do like the protection that it offers you, especially if you have a campsite that has a little bit higher grasses or whatever, you have more dew and condensation. You don't want your socks getting all sopped up and wet in the morning. This offers a little bit more protection for that, and the weight penalty is very minimal for this. So I'm very intrigued by these, but not super impressed, if that makes sense. Like, I kind of want to pick it up, but I don't really know exactly what service it's going to have. I think ultimately the only other camp shoe that I've had in the past that I've taken with me have been like water shoes. Like when I go out to Catalina and I want to jump in the water or whatever, it'll provide protection for my feet. And those are like 6 ounces for the pair. So to be able to save, an additional 4 ounces for something that I'm, camping on land or whatever, this might still even fit into my ultra light loadout as well, to stay under 10 pounds. So this one is an intriguing one. I'd say definitely give that one a look. Let's see, is there additional pages here? No, it's just one page here for their accessories. That's pretty much it. Not a ton new there. I think with all this stuff up here, the Octafleece and Mirage Merino Sun hoodie, I think the Mirage was something that they were collaborating with Darwin on for a little bit, or he was testing with them. This may be their reaction to a lot of the Outdoor Vitals stuff, but I think OV has a kind of stronghold on that space. So I don't think ZPAC, especially $100 for all this stuff too, they're really not getting the pricing down on that. So I don't see their clothing line really going anywhere. Over to actually, let's do the bargains here first before jumping back to accessories. We'll close it out with accessories. Not much to say about either one of these last two categories here to round it out, but bargain bin. I just wanted to give you a quick note on the bargain bin. Don't go for it, honestly. There's not really a lot of good stuff. I mean, maybe like stuff sacks, some of the smaller stuff, but you're not going to really find crazy deals. This is really, there's not a lot of defect stuff that I've noticed that they have in the bargain bin, or like returns. So you're not going to find steep discounts. It's really like, and you can tell right here just with the name, it's overstock stuff, right? So you can tell right here, it seems like they bought a little bit too much of the offset solos here. So they're trying to, pitch them at a little bit cheaper of a price here. However, so again, if you're buying at regular MSRP, definitely check out the bargain bin here first. However, if you're looking for a steeper deal, you're not going to find it. You may look at these packs and go, "Oh, that's a pretty decent deal." If they're normally selling for around $400 and it's $300, I would say you're right. However, if you look at the fine print or in the subject line, all the parentheses here, none of them have belts, and all of their belts go for like 50, $60. So, at the end of the day, again, you're only going to be saving like $20 or something like that off of normal MSRP. So the bargain bin isn't really worth it either. Definitely, again, if you're going to buy Z-Pack stuff and you want to get a steeper discount, 20, 30, 40, upwards of 50% that I've seen and gotten products at, you have to go eBay, you have to go word of mouth, garage sales, Facebook groups, look on stuff like that. But all right, let's round it out here with the accessories. And again, not a lot that's new. They're putting the shoes in there as well. The camp shoes, I'm trying to scan real quick to see if there's anything new. They did release their own face rag, or sweat rag, I call it. So it's sort of like a UL version of something that you can get off of Amazon. I have the REI pack towel, which I think is like 0.75 ounces. This comes in right about the same, but it's a little bit smaller of a surface area, and it's $25. The price point is somewhat in the ballpark, but the weight isn't really that much lighter. This also doesn't include like a carabiner to attach it. So you have to factor that in as well. So you're not really saving that much there, but that is somewhat new compared to the last time that I talked about Z-Pack stuff. The dog bowl, I'm not really sure why every company is getting into dog bowl stuff. There must be a space for that and people going out with their pets. I skipped one on purpose, but I'm trying to scan to see if there's anything else here. I've always been a proponent of Z-Packs' smaller accessories because they're cheaper, and they might find a surface. They might, I should say, fit the bill or fit a purpose for you. In particular, if you have their stuff, what I really like is they have the hardware to replace some stuff, right? Guy lines, buckles, stakes, bungee cords. I've bought all that stuff. V-top. straps for your pack to swap out standard straps. All that stuff is great. They also have additional stuff to mod it out, like, again, to bring back Matt. Into the fold with his offset solo. He did a mod on his offset solo to make the door be able to roll back. So different things like that to kind of fine tune it have been pretty good as far as their gear goes. This is another newer ish one that's kind of dumb in my opinion, which is, putting this cap on the end of your spoon to brush your teeth with it. That to me just seems like an awful idea. And then I think that's pretty much it. They got their own flip fuel. Don't get the flip fuel one. Get a knockoff one if you're going to go with it. Flip fuel is way too expensive. The one that I wanted to highlight here real quick, and this is based off of a commenter here. I'll end it with this here. I had a commenter recently on one of my recent videos, in which I had kind of broken down the Soto Triflex and saying, like, is it worth it? In that video, I had mentioned that I wasn't able to find anywhere where you can buy the Soto Windmaster with the Triflex as an option. And he pointed out that you can actually get it here off of Zpacks for basically the same price as well. So I'm not sure how they struck that deal. I wasn't able to find this anywhere else, but kudos to that commenter. He was able to figure this out, and I feel like I've seen this before, but I just didn't remember it. It's really cool that you're able to get it with just the Triflex. They also picture it here with the Quadflex, so maybe there is another option. I don't see it in their site here, but they also offer the MSR Pocket Rocket 2. So two of the most popular stoves, but it is cool that you can get it with the Triflex if you wanted to, instead of buying it with the Quadflex and then buying the Triflex off to the side. Because this is an additional, I think they charge you anywhere from like 10 to 15 bucks for that tiny little piece here, which is absurd. So in the past, and again, and that's only if you want the Soto Windmaster. I have said in the past now a couple of different times, Camping Moon basically makes a knockoff of this on Amazon for about 35 bucks. It's a straight knockoff of the Soto Windmaster and at about half the price. However, they also sell it with a Quadflex, so you still have to buy this Triflex piece here, but it's still going to be cheaper than getting the Soto Windmaster, and it is pretty much in every way the same stove. The only reason why I bring this up too is because I've been talking a lot about the petrol pot, and they have the grooves underneath their pot with the heat exchanger that kind of fit into those grooves. That's why I ended up picking up this piece to begin with, and it's really just for smaller pots. If you don't have that pot either, you can just go with the Quadflex. Not that big of a deal. But I think that'll do it. We will wrap it up there with some of Zpacks' new offerings. Zpacks apostrophe newer-ish offerings there. Again, I said I was going to round this one out and posing that question, or trying to answer this question of, is it really worth it? Now that you've seen kind of like what they've been doing here, they've been doing what appears to me to be a newer-ish release, or kind of like a revised version of something just about every single month that I've seen in 2024 now. So they've been kind of pumping out some new stuff. And my question again has been, is it worth it? Is it a worthwhile strategy from a company perspective, marketing and everything, to try and kind of blast the marketplace with this stuff? Or is it just kind of inundating and kind of white noise and pissing people off more so than actually going like, oh yeah, this is a worthwhile look? This is a tough one for me to answer. I don't know if there is a clear-cut answer on that one. I would say for some of the stuff that I had broken down for you guys here, kind of giving a quick first look at, I do think that they are worthy. But it really depends on the situation that you're kind of in, right? Like the running style vest, if I never bought a Zpacks pack before and I wanted to buy it normal MSRP, you'd have to wait like a year or so. Again, I would say, in order to try and get a deal on that. But if you're in the biz or in the space, right, where you're trying to pick up a fast pack and you want to try the running style vest, then that's really cool. However, for all of us who already have a pack prior to any 2024 models, you can't mod that out. So that, to me, I'm kind of on the fence, and I'm kind of pissed because I already have an older pack that I can't mod out, even though I want those straps. So that one's kind of a wash. The camp shoes are kind of cool, but not super innovative. Might still pick those up in the future. But as far as the other stuff goes, like all the tent stuff, these are super heavyweight and ticketed items, right? Super expensive stuff for you to look at. So you can't look at that stuff and go like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna swap out my tent every other month or something because they just released their light version of something or their pivot version where all they're doing is just kind of slightly altering the overall design. I don't think people are really going to do that. I think they're just going to stick to what they already have. Now, all of these offerings, again, if you're an entry level kind of person, you're looking to get into this type of gear, having all of these options now to look at is really awesome because we never really had that in the past. So just the amount of options really gives you different things to look at when you're looking to make that purchase. But I wouldn't necessarily say that, that's a huge selling point that they keep coming out with all of these different alterations. So to me, mostly I would say no, it's not really a worthwhile business and marketing objective to put this stuff out and really crank it out. I really don't see the point on that. However, what I do like about it is they seem to be doing pretty well, right? Like if you're a company that's constantly rolling over it, testing out different things, launching different things, even if it's a soft launch, you don't have that much of a supply of it. That means, in particular here with Ultra, and we're not talking about DCF anymore, but Ultra material, like harder fabrics to work with, and companies who have to basically buy it in a bigger amount in order to use it. That's a good sign. That means that Zpacks is doing pretty well, and they're giving you a lot of different options to choose from. So in that way, it's pretty good. If you're looking at it the other way, where you're just like, oh shoot, like for me in particular, like I just bought my Plex Solo because it was one of the lightest, and I bought it right on the edge of them coming out with a Plex Solo Light and all this other kind of stuff. So I'm looking at it at the time going like, sweet, I just bought one of the lightest tents that you can get, probably the lightest tent that you can get for an ultra lightweight loadout. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope, we got another one that's like 2-3 ounces lighter. So it's kind of hard to deal with, again, because all this stuff is new too. And I always recommend getting it at a discount. You're not going to be able to find a discount on these. I know I've been searching. If you are able to find it, let everybody know in the comments down below and share the wealth there as far as like how to get a deal on one of these newer items. And for me in particular, my theory is we're probably just going to have to wait until a lot of people have bought these, used them in the field a few times, and want to ditch them for something else in order for us to pick it up. So I'd say probably at least a year. And all of this stuff is new for 2024. So, all right, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for sticking with me here. Again, let me know and let everybody else know in the comments down below your thoughts on not only these new products, but that question here that I tried to answer at the end, which was, do you want to, back a company that puts a lot of different products out there, and is it a worthwhile business strategy for them to do it or not? I want to hear all about it in the comments down below. Let's get that discussion going. And if you like this format, I do these solo casts every once in a while. However, I usually like to have my usual band of rad Ted co-hosts with me. So I usually have at least 2 or 3 other guys on the cast with me here. So be on the lookout for that in a future GEARHAULICS podcast. I'm over on Instagram as well. I haven't been posting a lot lately, but I'm at Dave_off_grid. But yeah, that's going to do it for me on this one, guys. Thank you very much again for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.